What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Coffeez for Closers, where we dive deep into stories of perseverance, success, and business transformation. Today's guest is Darren Prince, a celebrity sports agent and entertainment agent, entrepreneur, and author. Darren's journey from overcoming addiction to representing some of the world's biggest names in the world, including Magic Johnson, Hulk Hogan, Dennis Rodman, has made him a powerful voice in both business and personal development. Tune in as Darren shares the lessons he's learned from his incredible career and personal battles, offering invaluable insights on success, recovery, and maintaining balance. Please welcome me in joining Darren Prince.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, Darren.
Thank you a couple times, but I made it.
Yeah. Thanks for your patience and getting over here. You know, I know it's a bit of a struggle coming from LA.
Yep,
Yes,
we're all good.
so I appreciate you. I'd like to start the show. I kind of briefly mentioned with the same question I ask everybody. And Darren, what's your morning routine?
Oof, I got a pretty consistent one. I wake up, walk my dog, got a little bit of red light therapy. I got a lamp on my bed. I've got my grounding sheets. So that puts me right into a state of mind that's important to me for inflammation, brain health, all around health. I usually get about a 1 hour workout in, do some meditation, and my hydrogen water.
Hydrogen?
Hydrogen water. I'm very close with Gary Breck. I'm on the 10X wellness routine, so I do a lot to work on my physical state, my emotional state, my mental state.
That's a great morning routine. I mean, that's a very, very thorough biohacking morning routine.
And then 5 days a week, sometimes 6, I hit my 12-step spiritual recovery meetings. 1 hour a day.
1 hour a day of spiritual recovery, or your
it's a bunch of spiritual recovered addicts and alcoholics, and 40 to 50 people, whether I walk into a church basement or log on to a Zoom meeting. And that just brings me back into my purpose, which is most important in life, helping other people that are struggling.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Darren.
Mm.
And that's, living that life of perpetual purpose is just really what's keeping you going.
It's everything.
It's not the money. It's not the...
No, man. I was with Magic Johnson 2 days ago. He's been a dear friend for 30 years. We were up at the Marriott in Beverly Hills and standing outside in the parking lot. And I told him I had to go back to see my mom. I'm originally from New Jersey. Moved out to LA 7 years ago and had to take an Uber after dinner to get back to my hotel. There was 4 different Ubers to choose from. I just picked one that, looked like it was the quickest. And 40-year-old gentleman driving. Just wasn't happy. I could tell we just got in this whole deep conversation about life. And I told him about my journey, that I had a God moment on July 2nd, 2008. And I've been sober ever since. And my life is about helping people, whether it's mental health, depression, anxiety, substance abuse. And he literally stopped the car, pulled over, turned around with tears in his eyes that he just left a detox center that morning. And his Medicaid insurance would only cover 48 hours. And I said, well, if you believe in miracles, I said, God put me in this Uber tonight because I have my Aiming High 501c3 foundation, that scholarship people that can't afford to go to treatment for substance abuse and mental health. He's checking into the facility right now.
Wow.
Parents went and talked to him. Kids cut him off. Wife went and talked to him. Called me 2 nights ago, said they've never been so happy. And he can't ever thank me enough.
That's incredible. So your 501c.
It's called the Aiming High Foundation.
That's awesome.
Yep, which is the name of my book. My book was called Aiming High.
What an incredible story. And that's not serendipity. That is just fate.
I told David Goggins on Saturday. I've been his agent for a few years now, and he was at a Lewis House event. Lewis is my guy too. He's great, and we're in the green room, and he just he's like, bro, what's happening with work, man? How's life? Whatever. I haven't seen you in a couple months, and I go, bro, I got to tell you a story. And I told him, and he literally got up from the chair in the green room and just gave me a big old bro hug. Like, he goes, that is so badass, man. He goes, so you got 2 of the most respected, prominent people in the world. Two of them with Magic and Goggins, and I connect more with them about that stuff than any amount of business that we do. It's easy to make money for the people that I work for, but I've always been about the personal relationship, and every single one of them have had their own adversity, which is what this is about. Every guest you have on here, it's the trials and tribulations. Yeah, we've gotten to the external space of success, but what if you dealt with internally and how you've evolved and allowed those opportunities to actually make you better, smarter, wiser, and then what you do to help others when you get there?
The next question I have for you, Darren, just so the audience knows, it just has more context other than my introduction. Like, what is a 20,000 foot overview of what you actually do?
Okay, so I'm a sports and entertainment agent. I started Prince Marketing Group in 1994. Magic Johnson was my first client, still is to this day. I worked for Muhammad Ali, Smoke and Joe Frazier. They both since passed. Jerry West was a dear friend and client, passed away on June 12th, which I'm still crushed over. We've got clients, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Charlie Sheen, Carmen Electra, trying to think, David Goggins, Larry Bird, Dominique Wilkins. I just got off the phone with him.
And you're their sports agent.
Yeah, but basically, so we basically focus on endorsements, commercials, keynote speeches, any sort of branding opportunities, social media campaigns, all that type of marketing opportunities.
By the way, I'm gonna have to talk to you. Maybe I can do some collabs with some of those folks. That'd be great.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know everybody.
Yeah,
You know everybody.
for sure. And those are just the names I'm remembering. We're
Like,
really
who knows?
fortunate. We
You're
have
so
a great
connected.
roster. Chevy Chase has been my guy for 30 years.
So you do all of the other stuff outside of their normal job.
Yeah, I mean, most of them I've been with during the course of the height of their careers too. So, there was it's a strange time, but for the better. Like back then, you would think the commercial opportunities and the marketing, the endorsements were big, but now they're all so iconic, the majority of them, that what's old is new again, and everything's retro.
Yeah.
And most of the young stars of today pay such mad respect to my clients that it's in their own way, it's also kept them super relevant, where their marketability is at like an all-time high.
Yeah, just to be candid, your clients, like, there aren't clients like that anymore. Like, the current celebrities are like YouTubers.
Exactly.
They're, they're basically, in TikTokers.
Exactly.
They're not iconic brands like Hulk Hogan,
Yep.
Magic Johnson. These are legends.
Well, no,
You
worldwide
represent legends.
superstars, man, and they embrace it and they love it. They're there for their fans. Otherwise, I couldn't be able to work for them. I see the way they are when they're out in public and getting mobbed and getting bombarded. And they want to make sure everybody gets time. They want to make sure they show their appreciation, which isn't exactly the young culture today, because you'll see something on TMZ or social media where they'll rush through and avoid fans. And I'm like, shake my head over that, because as an agent, I represent them and they represent me. So to me, there's just no need for that sort of behavior. Now there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
You don't walk over to a dinner table at a restaurant when they're having dinner with their family. You wait for them to get up, and then approach them, because that I feel is a little bit inappropriate. Allow them to be who they are.
I'm curious, like, you work with the elites of entertainment. And what is, like, the general personality that you see, the general personality characteristics and traits? Do you see a humility like Hulk Hogan, for example? He seems like a really humble, godly guy always.
They all had moments of adversity, but they've also had this unstoppable mindset. Hulk first went over to Japan in the 70s to wrestle, and the wrestlers intentionally broke his leg. And he just used it as fuel to beef up his body, get stronger, get wiser, and said he's never letting that happen again. So when he came back the next round a year or so later, he was more in a mental and physical state of mind to just understand the game. And, you said it a couple minutes ago. I mean, he's one of the most iconic figures in the world. His brand has now transcended 4 generations, 40 years. I mean, we could be at events, keynotes, appearances, whatever it might be. The amount of 6, 7, 8-year-olds wearing Hulkamania gear that never saw him wrestle
Yeah.
unless it's on YouTube or their father or their uncles are telling them stories. It's remarkable. He actually humbled me one day. I was down in Clearwater Beach a few years ago, and I call him Terry. His real name's Terry Balea. And I went with three of my agents to get like a couple days with them, and we went for sushi. And we're all sitting at the sushi bar when I got up to go to valet to give the valet guy Hulk's car ticket. There was about 100 people standing behind us at the sushi bar waiting for him to get up. Probably took him a half hour to get outside. Another 20 people following him outside in the parking lot. He looks at me and I'm like, I got this look on my face. He goes, brother, what's wrong? And I said, Terry, we come out here to hang out with Terry Bollea, and it's still the Hulk Hogan show. Like, I want to just get our bonding time because personal relationship is everything to me. Well, any of my clients will tell you that. Put his hand on my shoulder, goes, brother, remember this. If the world didn't treat me like I was still the heavyweight champion, you and I wouldn't be boys because there never would be a connection initially over business. So I got to make sure every single person gets to tell me their story, the highlights and the times in their life where they were unhappy and they watched a match and, they got their mind out of a very dark place to have the thrill of watching me with their father, their uncle, whatever it might have been. And I was like, it's a good point. I'll never complain again.
That sort of mindset, that kind of celebrityhood, that the type of guy that Hulk is, I don't think that there's a lot of celebrities that exist like that anymore.
No, they're not. It's
Like
just that
just like you
whole,
said earlier, it's like they just
and
rush through. They don't give the fans time. They don't really know. God gave Hulk Hogan so much, and he literally just gives it back. He's always telling people how to live their life, how to improve their life, how to be better human beings. And same with Magic Johnson, who you also represent.
say Magic's what he's done. Irvin, I call him by his real name, Irvin. What he's done. I mean, not since probably Muhammad Ali as will we ever see a post career legacy, but Magic's actually done in the business world to a level that he told me in 1996. We're in Honolulu, Hawaii. I booked him for a keynote. We knew each other for a couple years at that point. We're having lunch at the Ilikai Hotel overlooking the ocean, beautiful setting. And he goes, what was that talk that we had a couple years ago? He goes, you remember? I was like, yeah. I wound up I had a baseball card company. I went from a mail order baseball card company. I sold at $1 million when I was 19 years old to doing private autograph signings with athletes and celebrities. That's how I met a lot of my talent. I eventually got out of that company and had a informal meeting with Irvin Magic at his hotel room in Michigan. And I told him my vision. And I made a terrible mistake in the memorabilia business that I wrote about in my book. I was investigated by the FBI for mail fraud. You want to talk about challenging times. Got off. They charged me with making a false statement about one of the suppliers, which I trusted. During those 2 years, he was selling me product, and he wound up actually going to prison. It was a major fraud ring for fraudulent autograph memorabilia. But the bulk of my business, we were actually doing autograph signings in person with some of these icons. So the judge realized I made a mistake. And they charged me with a felony record, making a false statement. Bro, I lost everything. I went from having millions of dollars in my early 20s to being almost $1 million in debt. And this fly fishing trip in Alaska with my dad changed our lives. I took my last $3,000. My dad was so pissed, but fishing was always our thing. And on that boat, he's like, what's your next move? He goes, you're going to stay in the business? I'm like, nah, Dad, I want to be an agent. I just don't have 8 years to go to law school. And he drops the fishing pole and he looks at me, this gorgeous stream in Alaska. And he's like, law school? Life is about who you know, not what you know. Joe Montana, Chevy Chase, Magic Johnson. He goes, you're dialed in with the biggest people in the world. He goes, just tell Magic your vision. I bet I'll help you. And so I was with him, back to the initial part of the story. I'm with him in Michigan. And I told him, he knew what I was going through, stuck by me, knew I made a mistake. He goes, look, you're a good dude. And you made a mistake. And I know about making mistakes. This was only a few years from his HIV announcement. And he's like, God tests great men and women. And you're being tested now. And you're going to make lemonade out of lemons. But here's what I'm going to do for him. I'm going to give you 2 years to be my agent. If you don't use those 2 years to knock down every door utilizing me to build your agency, I'm going to fire you, because life isn't about how successful I become, Darren. I'm going to be a success in the world of retired athletes that I've never seen before. He goes, it's about how successful I can make you and everybody else around me, because when you get there, then you're going to pay it forward to other people.
Wow. That's an incredible story.
Yep.
That's an incredible story about Magic. That's a testament to Magic's personality. Everyone knows, and I've been, you know, Magic's been a hero to me since I was 6 or 7 years old. But just to see, and I had the opportunity to meet Magic in person at a keynote speech that he did, and he is probably one of the most brilliant entrepreneurs I've ever met, and he's diversified his portfolio like and amassed so many different businesses. But one thing that's similar with every business that he starts is it's intentional and it's to serve,
Yep.
and he's always looking and seeking to do God's work.
Yep. Always. And always wanting to better the communities.
Yeah.
Their slogan is, we are the communities we serve. And he just surrounded himself with such an elite team too. He utilized his platform as a mega NBA star during his playing career. He would go out to the courtside seats an hour before the game to do shoot around and stretching so he can network with all the power people in Hollywood, because he knew at that time if he could cultivate relationships, make lunch appointments, dinner appointments, go to their office, that at a certain point his career is going to be over. So now he's got those relationships.
Yeah.
Nobody thought about that back then but him.
He was really a trailblazer.
Yeah.
He was really a trailblazer. As a matter of fact, and I told you yesterday, we launched Dan Fleischman's mortgage company, and the intention behind it is to help celebrities, entertainers, etc., who have a show, and everyone knows that show is going to end. We had a couple use cases that presented some like professional athletes who've amassed a wealth uh, of a portfolio, 40 properties during the time the show happened, and then the show ended, and guess what? Show's over. I got 40 properties. You know, and the target audience, the demographic is to rappers, athletes, to help them amass a real estate portfolio, because one thing that it's going to do, two things it's going to do is, one, it's going to help them build wealth, but more importantly, it's going to help them stay grounded, so that while the wealth is coming, they're not out partying, doing drugs, whatever else comes with success. They're like, oh, I got tenants, so I got to fix the toilet. I can't go out and party, or whatever it is, like I'm a landlord, like I got lawsuits to worry, but whatever it is, like it helps them keep that mindset. So it helps them continue on that path of success. And that's kind of like the journey or the vision that I had for this, because leveraging that group, and really just helping them to serve those people, because they're clueless. These entertainers, I had a couple YouTubers, young YouTubers at the event. Some of the most well known. They're like the current, like Backstreet Boys,
Right.
or whatever it is. When they would go out into a public, people are screaming, 19 years old buying properties, and I'm using them as use cases there, and I work with them myself. But like, there's so much need in that community, because they impact. They're the influential people who are impacting the next generation. So just to kind of drive more attention to them and help them, so because they're the ones who are helping our kids.
Hey, getting back to what we were talking about before the interview, I told you I'm a partner in a private equity group called the Legacy Fund. My boy James Amorosi, Kevin Harrington, the Shark Tank judge, Dominique Wilkins, exact same mission. It's about educating athletes, entertainers, minorities, certain communities that don't have the education about financial literacy. And next year we'll be breaking ground on the first Dominique Wilkins Financial Literacy Center. And what we're doing is athletes, entertainers, more so athletes, because they die twice. You've heard that expression. They die once their career is over, and then when it happens naturally, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They're lost. And the majority of them go broke within 5, 6, 7 years. Football players are heard within 2 years.
Yeah.
So what our focus is allowing them not just to invest in unique opportunities with the incredible due diligence team that we have, but to give them an opportunity to actually be on the board of advisors for the companies they work for. So they actually have a purpose now. So just like you said, they're not in Vegas. They're not popping bottles, dropping
Yeah.
10, 20 grand a night. They're not blowing their money on stupid crap like crazy cars and taking 20 people on vacations, because they're role models. And what happens, just like you said about the young YouTubers, other parts of that generation looks up to that.
Yeah.
And so now you're just repeating the cycle instead of breaking the cycle. That it's about the long game,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
And if you live a certain way for a certain reasonable period of time, you'll have anything you've ever wanted anyway. And what I've seen, especially for working for the icons and the legends that I have, doesn't mean as much once they get to that point, because you're now so disciplined and so driven with what you're doing. And you see the ability that these businesses you're a part of have to give back and give other people opportunities. Yeah, of course you enjoy your life and you do what you want to do, but it's the mentality is so different than what it would have been when you look back 10, 15 years earlier when you're in the primary career. Because you just realize, you're actually building and scaling something that, could potentially be generational wealth. So why go out there and live in a certain lack mentality, which the majority of retired athletes do, and a lot of young superstar athletes still do? They don't have the education. They typically come from nothing. They're handed a ton of money, ton of opportunities, and they think it's never going to end. And guess what? One day you wake up and it's over.
It's a finite show.
Yep.
It's a very finite show. One of the things that I'm proud of is I had a young YouTuber, and we got him into a house. His first property. He's gonna probably amass probably 50 properties by the time he's 23. But first video he did a video going to his house, like 18 years old. Like millions of kids saw this kid buying a house. Like, what
Yeah.
do you think that's gonna do? It's helping the future generations instill this like entrepreneurial mindset, not this like I'm gonna dig off for my life. Um, yeah, and then with what you guys are doing, and the financial literacy piece, when that's great. But there's so much opportunity in home ownership and amassing a real estate portfolio now that you know that we can help you guys in terms of like collaborating or kind of adding another ecosystem to help you these guys acquire real estate, because that's the easiest thing.
Great.
Because if you tell people financial literacy and stocks and put your money in these bonds or Bitcoin or whatever, they're these intangibles.
Exactly.
They're these intangibles. They're just like, and there's a lot of reluctance in
Yep.
believing that.
Yep.
And so you got sports agents are telling their football athletes, "Oh, put it in the stock market, put it here." Like, no, put in this property that you can go
Exactly.
to and kick the tenant out yourself.
Yep.
Use your brute to get the tenant out if he doesn't want, or whatever. Go fix the toilet yourself. Like, this is a little bit more tangible, hands-on.
And produce some passive income.
Produce some passive income. And and Dan Fleischman said this yesterday. It's like the biggest regret anybody has with real estate is that they sold their real estate.
Yeah.
Like, there's no one that said, "Oh, I saw," no one goes, "Oh, I, sold the right." Like, the biggest regret anybody has, you look back at the properties you sold over the years, like, damn, I shouldn't have sold that.
Yep.
It's like, I should have kept that. There's never been one piece of property that you've been happy about selling.
Yeah, exactly. Where I'm like,
So-
oh my God, I'm so glad I sold that 10
Yeah.
years later. You're like,
Oh, that was such an idiot, So we apply that mindset, get these guys buying properties, and just like, don't worry, just buy and buy, and just you'll depreciate, you'll make a killing on your tax,
yep,
deductions right now, and don't worry about it. It'll work itself out.
exactly.
Rents just keep going up, but it gives
I
them.
love the model. Yeah, we have to find some synergy.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of synergy. I think that we can help in that foundation with whatever, because I really believe with what we're doing to help at a macro level. And for me, it's not like I'll do it for free. Like, for me, it's the vision of helping these guys,
Mhm.
and like Greg Lutzko was up there yesterday, like such an intelligent athlete. Just he inspired the whole entire crowd, because you see this athlete talking about real estate, talking about LLCs, talking about protecting his assets, talking about amassing a wealth portfolio, talking about being able to like retire now. Like, he's 39 years old. How long does a skateboarder's career last? It's over, like it's over at 39 years old. You got maybe a few months left.
You're like a senior citizen in that world.
Yeah, you're like a senior citizen, exactly. But he's ready. He's ready for retirement. He's ready to basically take his game to the next level. He's buying a couple more units. We just closed on a 3-unit forum in Michigan, but these guys could buy all over the country. You got Eric Spofford teaching just general broke Americans to invest in, Section 8 housing. People had no idea what kind of
Yeah.
Like, and paying 30% cash on cash returns in
Correct.
real estate. So there's just so much opportunity, and it's so easy
Yep.
right now with the products that we have. You don't need income to show. You just literally need your down payment. So these rappers, these athletes who don't have consistent income, all can get into properties
Yep.
like that.
That's amazing.
And
I
so
love it.
so they don't need to worry about, oh, I don't have tax return, I just
Right.
got this hit record, or and that's all I've ever
Yep.
done,
Yep.
like, no, we can get you, like, take that money, roll it into
And develop some wealth preservation habits.
immediately.
Yep.
Immediately, it's going to ground you, it's going to force you to want to do it again.
Yep.
So your career is going to have longevity, and you're going to have wealth and a legacy. So that's kind of the mindset that I have, kind of going into the vision that I'm going to help Dan with, and we're rolling with that as he kind of goes on with it. And, and whatever I could do to help you guys with whatever you guys are doing. I'm doing a lot of speaking engagements, kind of informing the community, especially since because the mortgage community or the mortgage space has been taboo since the crash.
Mhm.
So there hasn't been a lot of, like, resources to the given to the general public. It's been
No, not at all.
just been like taboo. Like, hey, especially in the like, we're a broker and a banker, so we brokers, especially us, we've gotten the biggest stigma.
Yep.
Like, we were the cause of the
Yeah.
crash, right? So
Yeah.
like, no, now coming back into this space, it's like, we have the ability to help people beyond belief.
Yep.
And we just kind of need to we have to really just echo that message, so people are just knowledgeable about what's really going on. Financial literacy is important, but there's a stigma with that too. It's like, I don't need to worry about credit repair, or I don't care about my credit cards. Like, no, financial literacy is like complete financial literacy, home ownership.
Mhm.
Which is pretty much the most important thing
Exactly.
right now for financial literacy.
Yep. And especially because if you do it right at a young enough age, when you don't need the money, the banks and the lenders will give it to you. When you need it, if you don't do it right, good luck getting it.
That's right. So, Darren, what's fascinating, we talked earlier, like, you started your first company at what age?
1984.
14 years old. What age did you know you were an entrepreneur?
I was probably an entrepreneur at 10 or 11. I know you haven't lived here your whole life. I don't know if they make them anymore. They used to make Juicy Fruit Gum, Big Red, and Wrigley's, and they would put a pack of 10 in a strip for 99 cents. And I'd go through like 100 bags, maybe more a week, where I was buying them for 99 cents and selling that in my locker for a quarter of a pack. So I was 2.5 times on my money.
Nice.
And I'd pay a couple of my big Italian football player friends that I'm still close with this day to stand guard in front of my locker so people weren't stealing quarters or packs of gum. And I was crushing it. I mean, that went on. Nobody at the school even cared. It was great. And then my father was in direct mail coupon advertising, just wasn't for me. And I had a severe learning disability. So apparently, growing up, I was put in small classrooms, which we can get into how that sort of affected my eventual drug addiction because of my lack of self-worth and self-esteem. And the only thing I liked was this business teacher, Elliot Lovey, who I'm still close with to this day. And he's now retired. When my book Aiming High came out in 2018, they invited me back to speak to my entire high school. He coordinated the whole thing, which was very special. And he challenged the class one day to go home and create a business. Now, in my mind, I had one. Even though I wasn't executing it, I would have 3 different jobs. I was squeezing orange juice. I was a busboy, and I worked in the stock room at a sneaker store. And all my friends that were getting into dating could care less about baseball cards. So I'd buy all their collections. And then the ones that wanted to hold them, they cared more about these players, Wade Boggs, Tony Gwynn, Don Mattingly, Darryl Strubbe, Roger Clemens. But I knew that a lot of them got these older cards from their uncles and their fathers, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth.
Man, do you have any of those?
So
Those
I
cards
would
have
give
100x.
I would give them the newer players that I would get out of packs, and I would take their old cards.
Wow.
Because I would give them a card that might be worth $5 or $10, but everybody knew. And this old card, I would look up and the price got to be worth 100 or 200. And I did that for about a year. So before I knew it, I had a collection of about nine or 10 grand worth of cards. And I asked my dad then, I just said, hey, Mr. Lovey challenged the class to go home and create a business. I needed insurance for my baseball cards. My dad thinks I'm a little bit crazy at this point. What do you need? I'm like, I don't know, probably 9 or something. Because, all right, I'll get you $1,000 worth of home insurance in case we ever get a flood. I go, no, Dad, $9,000. He goes, how the hell do you have $9,000 at the baseball cards? I run upstairs, show him the price guide, come down with a box of cards. Because who can you sell it to? And I said, well, it's funny you said that. I opened up this big newspaper ad. It's this big. The local paper in Livingston was called the West Essex Tribune. And the local Holiday Inn had a card show coming up in 2 weeks. For $20, you get an 8-foot table. So Steve Simon runs my agency now, Prince Marketing Group. We go back, 44 years. I've known him since I was 10. We decided to put up $10 each. He was going to get 4 feet. I was going to get 4 feet. The only difference is Steve just threw some cards in a box the morning of the show because he was doing it just for more fun. I spent 2 weeks every single night after school preparing perfect signs and the layout and very over the top the display cases. And I made over $1,000 on that afternoon at 14. He made $50.
Wow.
He had a good time, but he just really didn't have a vision to create a baseball card empire. And I just dove in. That was it. I mean, I was doing card shows every weekend. I was running ads in the Bible publication back then of the hobby called Sports Collectors Digest. I was one of the first people in the state of New Jersey, I think, to get a cell phone when I was 14. It's a company called Bell Atlantic in 1984. And the phone cost me $3,000, and it was $3 a minute, and I had a rubber antenna in a leather case, and I would have it in my locker. So in between class, I'd be able to call up. It actually had like a voice, a computerized voice that would tell you who called. That was the best technology back then. And I would call a stockbroker back, and these guys all started getting to know me for my ads. And on the weekend, I would go to shows, find the cards that they wanted, upcharge them, and it eventually became so big that I dropped out of college my freshman year. Sold it probably about a year after college for about $1 million, the whole company.
Wow.
Yep.
The crazy thing is, if you look back at what cards you probably had in your collection.
Bro, I got a picture of a Honus Wagner card in my phone right now. I just posted it on social media 2 weeks ago. 1990 or 91. I picked it up for $75,000 from a private buyer. Flipped it 24 hours later. I took 20 friends to an Italian restaurant in West Orange. I don't even think it's there anymore, New Jersey, called Solano's.
91.
I flipped the card for $125,000. I made $50K on the flip in 24 hours. Kenny Golden has got the biggest auction house in the world right now. He's a dear friend of mine since I was a teenager. I've sent Darren Rovell the picture. They both like send me crying emojis. That's probably a $7.5 to $10 million card today.
Oh, yeah, because it's actually Kenny Golden, because I watched that show. I love that show, by the way. Great show.
I got Ric Flair on there and a couple clients.
You got Ric Flair on that show?
I got Rick on there the first season.
I saw that episode. And in that show, he mentioned that cards and comic books go up more than like quadruple what stocks are moving at.
It's not even close.
It's
far surpassed real estate and every other.
It's the greatest asset you can buy. The collectible market is unreal. It's not slowing down.
It's not slowing down because now, especially if they're unique enough, even the new modern day stuff, the card companies are getting smart and they're starting to do these insert cards, these rare signed insert cards. And I mean, the rappers, when they had Fanatics Fest last month, I know we had Hulk there. I didn't make it. It was just insane. They had 200,000 people there. And you've got Travis Scott buying cards. You've got Dana White buying cards. These box breaks now apparently are exploding. You have stockbrokers that have no problem buying an open box of 2024 cards from Topps or Upper Deck for $100,000 a box to open 24 packs, hoping that there's a card in there worth a few $1 million. That's a one of one. It's like artwork.
It's unbelievable, the culture behind it, and it's exciting because I was a card collector my whole life too, and I still buy cards. So I'm still a collector.
I got back into it during the pandemic and through 2021. I bought a ton of stuff that's sitting in my safe. I'm just riding it out. I don't have the time to buy, sell, and flip anymore.
And it's really elevated with the PSA grading and everything.
And they're right down here, PSA.
They're here in Orange County?
They're around this area. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But the slabbing takes forever, man. You gotta really be patient unless you're paying like a rush service. I think most people are waiting anywhere from standard rush is like 2 to 3 months to get your cards back. And then if it's if it's like basic standard, I've heard people are waiting like 6 to 8 months or more.
Wow.
There was a time, I'll tell you, it was crazy during the pandemic when I was sending all my stuff down there. My assistants, I was driving them crazy. They're getting 10, 15 packages a day of raw cards. So they'd have to write out the form, fill it out, upload it, send it. You actually didn't care if it took a little bit longer because they were so backed up with COVID and they didn't have the biggest stuff because your money was better sitting in those cards, waiting for the lottery ticket to show up 3 or 4 months later and
Yeah.
open up the box and it's slab. I mean, there wasn't one purchase that I made where when those cards came back slabbed, the value didn't minimum double in a period of 3 to 4 months. That's how hot that was, the market back then. So, and I know it's still super strong. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I love to say it. I mean, like, 'cause I'm not really buying like I once was. I got back into it for a year and a half during the pandemic, but I still go to shows because a lot of my guys sign autographs and I love walking around. I've got relationships with friends that I've known for 40 years and, just seeing a lot of these young dynamos in the hobby that were like me. And now they've got way more ability to make incredible amounts of money compared to what I had back then because there was no internet.
So that's fascinating. Kenny Golden. I'm a big fan of that show. And
Yep.
I saw this episode where he had a guy where he had the horse Wagner, like the one
Yeah,
of
the Mickey
one.
Mantle, the Jim
Yeah,
Minton. Yep.
yeah, $30 million horse
I
Wagner
know.
card.
I know.
Did you have that card?
That's the card that I had. Yeah,
But that one's worth
mine
30. But that was
wasn't
a gem. That was a
mine wouldn't have been an 8 or 9 like that guy's was. It was probably more of a 6. But yeah, definitely 100% would be about a 7.5 to $8 million card today.
wow.
Yep. And I mean, I handled some of the best stuff ever. Mickey Mantle rookies. I mean, you name it, I had it. And you're not thinking about holding stuff back then. You're in a turn and burn business. Buy it, sell it, replace your inventory, find another collection, whatever it might have been.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, it's still turn and burn,
Yep.
even for Kenny.
Yep.
He's turning and
My
burning
dad
them.
always told me I'd rather you turn your money 10 times on this over the next 2 years than sit on it and double or triple your money. You'll be way better off.
Now, what age did you become like addicted?
Well, 14, I was at sleepaway camp and I had bad stomach pains one night. And the counselor took me to the infirmary and nurse gave me this green liquid, cough syrup liquid in a clear little cup. And I did a shot and um, all those inadequacies, inferiorities, feeling of less than went away. I felt like Superman. I'm walking across the softball field with the counselor, got back to the bunk. The guys are laughing with me and at me. I'm the smart one. I'm the popular one. I'm the good looking one. Got the courage to flirt with girls next door for the first time and went to bed that night thinking nothing of it. Did all my activities the next day at camp. And that next night, I'm lying in that bunk with no stomach pain. But I remember the feeling like yesterday, 40 years ago, this brain started going. I was like, God, I got to get more of that stuff. What wasn't? I heel over and I start putting on the crocodile tears. And the counselor comes running over and asks me what was wrong. And I told him. He took me back to the nurse. And I kind of pulled that BS off for a couple weeks until my mom and dad came up visitation day and found out I was taking liquid Demerol. Back then, it wasn't as controlled of a substance of an opiate. And, I speak all over the world. I do interviews all over the world, TV, podcast. And I tell people it's not the nurse's fault because I would have found what I wanted to find anyway. 1 in 3 kids that get opiates from a dentist nowadays become opiate addicts. I was one of the 3. I went to get my wisdom tooth removed that same year after camp, maybe 4 or 5 months later. I had no idea what these white pills were. My mom gave me. I was in a lot of pain. Man, that feeling came right back. I'm calling up my boys. I'm on the phone. I'm feeling like a rock star. And eventually my parents went to bed. I remember I went down to the kitchen to get something to eat. And I looked at the bottle. I was so bummed out. There was only 2 pills. So the whole night I'm thinking, okay, how do I pull this off? My parents woke up in the morning. I run down in the kitchen, grab my cheek. I said, Mom, my tooth is killing me. I got a horrible infection. We got to go back to the dentist. I can't go to school as a loving mother who wants to see their child suffer. So she took the baby, took him back to the dentist, and he wrote like a prescription for another 10 of those white pills I found out were extra strength Vicodins, another opiate. And look, man, nobody was going to be able to tell me what to do at that point because I had the money coming in too. So for the next 5 or 6 years, I was a rock star, but in the baseball card industry, and um, so the shit hit the fan in 2021. I was arrested 4 times in 6 months for possession charge, not to distribute, for personal use. big concerts with my friends out at a nightclub, whatever it might be. I was the one with the money. So I was the one that was buying the drugs, paying for the alcohol.
So you from that age to 2021?
Yeah. I got popped 4 times in 6 months at the age of 21. Once in Texas, 3 times in New Jersey. I was arrested, and wasn't a wake up call. I was just pissed that, you know, it was bad luck. I thought it's like, why was I the one that got arrested? And, it was just crazy. I'm the one that's taking care of everybody. Complete denial. Got put into an outpatient program in New Jersey called St. Barnabas Alliance. Judge said if I screwed up or tested positive for anything, I'd go to jail for a year. And, you talk about denial. For anybody young in your audience that's listening or older, and there's a lot of people suffering. I got the good news with 2 weeks to go. I didn't have to complete the whole year. I graduated, is what I thought I heard. That day, I called my friend Dave up and I said, bro, let's go to the city and get banged up. Let's go celebrate. Let's go to Jimmy's Cafe in the Village, do some mind eraser shots. And on the way in, we took a couple Xanax, had these mind eraser shots. And next thing I know, man, it was the middle of the night and woke up and I'm in the ICU in the hospital. 90 stitches in my face. You could still see some of the scars here and here, and on my hand right here. My friend Dave fell asleep behind the wheel, and the seatbelt didn't lock up on time. By the time my face hit the windshield, I was sleeping. It went through the windshield. And the first two people I say are my mom and my dad. So anybody that's listening, that's what addiction and alcohol does. It destroys families. It's not just the one that's suffering. And, I was like a runaway freight train because, like I said, I had the money at that point. And then eventually I jump into the sports and entertainment industry representing some of the biggest stars in the world. Who's going to tell me what I can and can't do? I'm the man to get to the man. I'm the man to get to the woman. So none of my agents, nobody's going to tell me I have a problem. I lived that way for 5 or 6 years. I was crushing it at Prince Marketing Group. And then at some point, what was living to use turned out to using to live, as I tell people. And those last 2 years, man, were pure hell, not wanting to live anymore with all the money, all the success, not just the money and the success, the notoriety. You can't buy notoriety. You earn notoriety. You earn the respect by the people you surround yourself with. So just by default, I was looked at up here because of the talent that I was working with, and the biggest celebrities and their publicists would have to come to me to get access to whoever it was that I represented, or if we're out, I'm getting mad respect from their team. So I'm eating it all up because at the same time, I'm a broken soul. I didn't know anything about, recovery. I didn't know anything about trauma. I didn't know anything about healing. And I thought that was it. I arrived, but it was just a double life for a really long time until I had my spiritual awakening on July 2nd, 2008.
What was that spiritual awakening?
So July 1st, the day before, my now late uncle, he passed away, my Uncle Stu, came to New Jersey to visit my mom, and they surprised me. He was with his new girlfriend. Her name is Andrea. And I was at the wit's end at this point. My office, a couple of people, my boy Steve, who I told you about the baseball card show with me at 14. He was running my agency. He's like, maybe you should go to treatment. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm too busy. I'm not going to a rehab. Maybe I'll go to a spa for a few days, do massages. I'm thinking in my mind, yeah, that'll work. Yeah, being on Suboxone, opiates, Xanax, Valium, drinking, mood stabilizers, snorting Ambien at night. Yeah, I could detox myself. So she, this woman walks in. I never met her before, bro. And she's like, are you okay? I felt a connection with her. I was like, I'm not. And she's like, what's the problem? And I told her. She goes, do you realize you're an addict? Your life's unmanageable. And I said, yeah. And she goes, do you realize you're powerless and it's a disease? I said, yep. And then she looks around at all the pictures of me and all the stars and says, you realize none of this means anything because you don't mean anything to yourself. And that broke my soul. I started to cry. And she goes, do you want help? Because I could help you. She reaches into her pocket. She goes, I just celebrated 5 years sober 2 weeks ago. Wow. I met your uncle in recovery. We're both in recovery. I could help you. And I said, I'm desperate. I'll do anything. So that was my first God shot. She put me on a detox plan. The next night was July 2nd, 2008. And I was crawling out of my skin, man, vomiting, diarrhea, upset stomach. I went to the gym 2, 3 times in my building in New York City. I'm just trying to do anything to deal with the cravings and the detox pains. And I called them up. I said, F this. I'm calling the freaking doctor to get what I really need to get. I can't freaking do this. And my uncle picks up the phone and says, it's a goddamn disease talking, Darren. You got to kick the crap out of your ego already, this immature BS. And you got to get yourself to a 12-step meeting. Go tell these people you're sick and suffering, you need help. I said, there's no freaking way. I've been to those stupid meetings when I was 21. Those people can't identify with me. I hung up the phone, ran into the bathroom. This was 6 months after my first overdose, and my then wife is banging on the bathroom door, baby, don't do it, don't do it. She hears me going through the cabinets. Now, I was looking for a non-narcotic anxiety pill, which Andrea told me I could take 3 times a day to help with the cravings. But out came 3 extra strength Vicodins out of one of the pill bottles, which was bizarre because Simone, who's my now ex-wife, we went through all the cabinets in the apartment to make sure I wasn't tempted, but we must have missed one. I thought it was a gift from God. I thought, holy crap, which is exactly what I needed. But then the miracle happened. For whatever reason, man, I wanted to live more than I wanted to die, and I had the gift of desperation at the Carillon building. Down in Chelsea, New York City, and I fell to my knees. I screamed out to God, take the money, take the business, take the notoriety. I need a single day of freedom. If you take me out of hell, I will spend one day at a time taking others out with me. And my life changed forever in that moment. I had a burning sensation in my right shoulder. I heard a voice say, I've got you when you're ready. Stood up, I flushed the pills. I had a white light moment, never had it before. I've never had one since. Went to the computer in the living room, found a 12-step meeting, jumped in a cab because there was no Ubers back then on this gorgeous summer night of July 2nd, 2008 on a Sunday. I said, holy crap, what the hell just happened? For the first time in my life, I wanted to stay sober more than I wanted to get high, and walked into this church basement, 150, 200 addicts and alcoholics who were all once of a hopeless state of mind. And I had the leader say, is anybody new coming back sick and suffering? And I believe God raised my hand that night because there was no ego. My ego was crushed. And I said, I'm Darren. I'm sick. I'm suffering. I'm suicidal. I need your guys' help. I have such a great life, and I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. And about a dozen spiritual brothers and sisters came over to me, man, and said things that changed my life forever. Stick with the winners. Take the cotton out of your ears. Put it in your mouth. It's time that you understand the 5 A's: attitude adjustment, accountability, acceptance, and action. And the last one, what got me and got my heart, was we're going to learn to love you before you ever learn to love yourself. And I just became immersed into meetings and the fellowship and learning about my character defects, my past, my traumas, behavioral patterns. Eventually, 1 month became a week, became a year. And I was in actually France with my then wife in Saint-Tropez on my 1 year sober birthday, July 2nd, 2009. My sponsor calls me. A bunch of people texted me. I'm so excited, on top of the world, 1 year sober. And he goes, hey, you want to keep this gift, right? I said, yeah. He goes, well, it's time to stop being selfish and start being selfless, because you want to keep it, you better give it away to others. And that just like sent shockwaves through my body. And I actually went public right then and there on Facebook. And I announced that I was celebrating 1 year sober. My mom was a bit embarrassed. My dad loved it. And that's when I realized vulnerability is a true superpower. The amount of people that DM me that needed help or had loved ones that needed help. I realized I found my purpose. I found my calling. And the agency life gave me a platform of notoriety. But
It
my
didn't give you a
calling
purpose.
was able to come from that platform.
Yeah.
To then, as I started getting more and more sober time, connecting with all different sorts of people. After my dad passed away in 2017, I had the beautiful gift of being a sober son for my father for 8.5 years and saying goodbye to him the night before we put him into hospice. I told him, I looked at him, I was rubbing his head in the hospital bed, and I said, this experience with you, to never feel so comfortable during the most uncomfortable time of my life. I said, I'm going to touch the world. I said, I know you've been excited about my business success, but I know how proud you've been about my personal success. And I'm going to show people they get through anything without having to use a substance. And then all these GMCs, my friend Bruce that passed away in recovery after about 30 years, used to call them GMCs, or God-managed coincidences, started happening after my dad passed. I got honored at New Jersey's Turning Point, the largest rehab in New Jersey, to do my first keynote. worked with the coach for 6 months. I wanted to make sure I kicked ass. It went phenomenal. The next day, Rona Graff, who was Donald Trump's longtime executive assistant, I go way back with Trump from the Celebrity Apprentice days, and we used to do business together. She called and said the White House would like me to come be part of his opioid epidemic initiative. And I was probably, I think, about his second year in office. So I was up there, been to the White House 3 times, and he was there. I met a publisher by chance on social media that's in recovery. She gave me the vision for the book. I didn't want to write it. My dad always wanted me to write one. And I was like, I don't want to write a book about my career. And after she and I met, Ann and David, she goes, doesn't have to be about your career. It could be what it's like to be a fly on the wall of the journey of representing some of the most iconic stars in the world while you went deep into hell and came out on the other side. Can you imagine how many people you'll help? And it's like, that's it. That's it. And after about a month, me, her, my co-writer, Chris McGinnis, came up with the name Aiming High. And when it was released, man, in 18, I had no idea. It became a international bestseller. And to this day is helping so many people because the opiate epidemic is worse than ever.
Worse than ever.
Worse than ever.
Me and Eric Spofford spoke about that on earlier
And
today.
he'll tell you that too. I told you, Eric's my boy. I was with him in April in Salt Lake City. It's worse than it's ever been, man. I mean,
fentanyl
I'm
has
just so
changed
glad
the game.
fentanyl wasn't around when I was using because I wouldn't be sitting here talking.
No, you'd be dead.
Yep.
You'd be dead. Well, it came out in 2012, and he said it wiped out everyone he knew.
Yep.
All of his friends.
100%. But I mean, we talked about this earlier. When you can find your purpose, man, and I do all the work each day. I got my spiritual advisor still working on traumas, blockages, character defects. I'm religious with my, 5-6 days a week. I had 12-step meetings, always working with people in recovery, and still find a ton of time to just always be crushing at Prince Marketing, working my ass off for my clients, and got a great team behind me. But my team knows too, and my clients know too. There are times that I need to be selfish for me.
It's important.
Take time back to myself so I could be selfless to people I'm trying to help and the clientele that we're working for. And they get it. They understand it. Because a selfish Darren, for the right reasons, for reasons of integrity, for the ultimate purpose of refueling my tank to help other people to vibrate higher, to have a better frequency, laws of attraction, using positive words of affirmation is just going to manifest abundance in so many other ways, not just wealth, health, happiness, other people coming into my life. I think you and I are going to find synergy now. I mean, that's what it's about. I want to always stay as spiritually fit as I can. I've learned so many beautiful quotes and messages that your audience will love. I said this one on Jay Shetty's podcast: say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean. People don't remember that third one. It'll change your life. Try to understand people instead of being understood. In the heat of an argument, don't send the text, don't send the email, don't make the phone call. Get your mind in a place of feeling all right versus right. Because in 10, 20 minutes, you are not going to remember why the heck you snapped on somebody, and the vibration of your day is completely off now. And just by the abundance, frequency, and energy of life, of staying in a place of peace and not engaging, life is just good. It works out better that way.
Yeah.
A lot of us are in our own way.
And we get caught in that moment. It's like,
a lot of it's just getting our own way, and they don't realize why we react a certain way. Or I don't want to keep dealing with my character defects. I'm still not perfect. I still make mistakes all the time, but I'm such a better version of me, and I'm accountable, which is the most important thing. Look, I'm not a doormat. I probably snapped on 2 or 3 people in the past year, which I'm very proud of. That it was only that, but I remember each and every situation. And like my sponsors would always say, you're still not a doormat. Every once in a while, you got to stand up for yourself and let people know where you stand.
Amazing, Darren. So I was actually going to ask you, what's your favorite quote? But let me switch it to, what is the mantra that you live by?
Something that my dad taught me. It's not what you say, it's what you do. Anybody that knows me will tell you, they ask me for something, it gets done right away.
You're a man of action. You're a man of action. That's what's allowed you to be so successful. That's also what's allowed you to overcome this tribulation.
Exactly.
Because you immediately recognize, like, I need some help, but it's hard to, humble yourself, especially when you're such notoriety.
Yep. Well, I've gotten to that point of self-love, man. Not for the business, Yeah, that's good and great. It's allowed me to take care of a lot of people, build our own empire. But, self love and self respect comes from my mission now. I told you guys earlier, man, if I lost the business and the money tomorrow, it's all good. I look back and say, God, what a run we had the past 30 years. What's next? You know, the the money's just a mean to take care of other people and give other people my life experiences. Yeah, I travel, I enjoy it, I enjoy my own life, but it doesn't make or break me anymore. I found peace in my stomach, my heart, my soul for the first time in my life on this journey the past 16 years. And to be able to just help another sick and suffering human being out there that helps their loved ones, their family, their significant others, their coworkers, better than doing a $10 million endorsement deal. Uncomparable.
What's the best piece of advice that you would give to your, I don't know if it was your 20, when you hit that trauma, it was 21. What's the best piece of advice you would give to your 21-year-old self?
My 20-year-old self, I think, learn to love yourself more because there was such self hatred at that point, for whatever reason. And I think this younger generation needs to understand. You've heard the expression, it's not my business what other people think of me. I think the meaning of that is people don't think about you that much. And if you get out of your own head and stay in your own lane and focus on your race and what's important to you, everything will start attracting the right way.
It's beautiful. Now, a couple last questions before we adjourn here. The first one is, it's a multi-pronged question. What's a personal goal that you have for yourself, and what's a goal that you have for Prince Marketing?
Prince marketing is just always growing and scaling the business. We're good with the clientele that we have. At some point, I would imagine I sold off a very small minority stake about a year ago. I love what I do. So whether it's a full exit one day, I stay on the board of advisors or whatever it might be. Like I said, I just love what I do. I love the people that we work for. And personally, it's I know it doesn't happen every day, but as long as I could be a service to one person that's sick and suffering every week, that just keeps me in alignment to the person that I always was meant to be and the person that I am.
Now, my last question for you, Darren. When you're in front of the pearly gates, what do you think God's going to tell you?
Well, I know he's going to tell me that I'm proud of you. And you did exactly what I wanted you to do. Because I've said it on different interviews before that, you know, I don't need anything on my tombstone one day about the so-called agent life, super agent life. I'm nobody's Superman. It's the talent that developed who they were long before they ever met Darren Prince. I want a man that went deep into hell and came out on the other side to sprinkle hope and recovery across the world to help other people. That's it. That's my legacy right there.
You're a true man of God, man. You really are a true servant at heart. And, I hope your legacy lives way beyond Prince Marketing, way beyond this celebrityhood that you were involved with, because you're bringing good to that world. You're bringing, you're bringing real light to that world.
Mm.
And I hope and pray that your legacy lives far, far beyond. You hit every single one of your goals. And if people are suffering right now that are listening, or they have family members that are suffering right now, how can they get help?
They can contact me on Instagram at agent_DP, or they can message the website aiminghighfoundation.org. Yeah, that's pretty much the two most simple ways. I'm on Facebook as well, Darren Prince out of Los Angeles, California. But I will personally reply myself. People know it, they've seen it. Like I said, I've been on some of the biggest stages, biggest talk shows, interviews, podcasts. Jay Shetty and I just were over the moon with the hundreds of thousands of people that respond. I get back to every single person, bro, myself, because I put God in my heart and soul, and I know that he's the one that works through me. And I'm the one that's able to turn the lights on in somebody's eyes just by telling my story. I don't need to hear about your story. I'm going to tell you about mine. And if you identify you're going to want that gift and you're going to ask me, or you're going to say, hey, that was me. I'm really struggling, man, because I've had some of the most mind-blowing moments at some of my keynotes during the private meet and greets and Q&As of people that I know have never told a single soul what they were dealing with. But those God-given words that came out of my mouth turned the lights on, and they took an action to make their life exactly what it was always supposed to be.
Amazing. God bless you, man. You've been an incredible guest. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you for your service. Thank you for helping thousands and thousands of people. And I hope you hit all your goals.
Thanks, my
Darren
brother.
Prince.
And congrats to you too on everything.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
looking
Thank you.
forward to continuing our friendship.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Darren Prince, guys, make sure you follow him. And if you know anyone who's suffering or needs help, reach out to him. This guy's a man of service and he will help you.